So in the last session, we had read a lot, especially try to get a user from the database based on the ID. And I gave an assignment that we should try to get a user by the email, right? I hope that you've done that, and then congratulations if you're able to achieve that. In this session, we are going to focus on how to update using the next method, that's put method. We say the put method is used to update items in the database, right? So a lot of updates happen, right? After the user create accounts, then they want to change their phone number and then all that. Let's look at the things that we can update from our database. So this is the database model that we have. So we are going to updating change password. There'll be change of password. There'll be changing phone number, last name, first name. So maybe the person has created an account and then make the mistake in the name that they were writing, right? So maybe yes, can they update the first name, but you know we cannot update the ID. So this one is from database thing, so we need to keep it. We can't update ID, but we can update something like email. Maybe the user wants to change their email, they don't want to see the old email in their account again. So all these things are things that can be changed, right? We can update all these guys. But then in this one, let's try to change the phone number. Let's try to change the phone number of the person in the database. So that's what we are going to do. So let's go to the main file where we have so I'm going to say update user, but then I'm going to say update phone number. Update phone number rather. So we can update phone number. Let me push these things down out of the way so we can focus on only the put method. So now the async update user data. So let's say update phone underscore number, right? So as usual, it's going to receive some data. Let's say user data. Let's say dictionary, comma. The database is going to depend on the database, and database is a session which is equal to the depends get db. We'll be using this anytime we'll be using this particular line of code anytime our endpoint will be dependent on the database, and most of the database section or most of the endpoints will be using database. So that's why we are adding this line. So if you are following the session step by step, you have understood all that already at this level. So right now that we are doing that, now we need to focus on how data will come in at this endpoint. So the user right now just put dictionary here, and then you know that every data is in form of dictionary already, but we need a particular model that will actually come, how data will come into the database. So here we are updating phone number, right? So we need to go to our Pydantic model to define a new class for how data will come in. Let me leave a comment here and say model for updates into updates coming. They're coming into the system for us. So let's say coming. So I'm going to say class. I will say it user update in. So it's going to be a base model because here we are using Pydantic, right? So now what are the things that we will need? So before someone can do this an update in the database, basically whatever the user should send, the user should send the ID of the person. We need the ID, and it's going to be UUID. It's very important. We need it. And then since we are going to be changing phone number for now, what we are going to do, we are going to say phone number. Phone number is a string, right? So we need that. Basically, this is what we need. This is a database. This is a model that we need to actually to receive any update that the user needs to do. Right now, we are just using phone number update. So let's go back to our mail, right? And then bring that model, Pydantic models from PD models. We have imported user in, user out. Now that we want to do update, we created a new Pydantic model, and we say it's user update in. So I'm selecting that. So it's in now. So that's the model that we user update in, right? So here it's not going to be a dictionary. It's going to be that user update in. Great. Now if that user updates come in, what we are going to do is that, so that model, that thing will come here, right? So what we'll do is that because it contains an ID, we are going to use the ID from the model that the user will be sending. We are going to use that ID to actually capture the right user in the database, right? So we are going to say, let me call this one db underscore user. equals to, that's the name of the variable, because this user, I want it to be different from this user. This user is the one coming from the outside, but this one is the one we are going to catch from the database, right? But we are going to use the ID from the payload or whatever user you send in order to capture the user from the database first, so that we can make update on it. So we need to check if that particular, the incoming ID matches to a particular user, so that we can continue with the update. So we say db.query whenever we want to fetch someone from query. We are going to define the model, so, and then it's the user table model, like how we did it in previous session. Dot, we are going to filter, and if you are filtering, you need to filter to a point where the user dot id is equal to the user dot id here. So I want you to understand this very well. Dot first, as usual, we explained all this so far. So what's happening? This capital U user is the model user, meaning it's from the database, but this small u user is the one that is coming. It's a dictionary, and then dot id just help you to find the field, the id field from this particular user that is coming. So if you know dictionary very well, this is how to this is how we are just accessing it, basically. Simply. So user.id, and then this one is from the database model, right? So now we have gotten that. So we need to check if database user is none. It means that if it does not exist, what do? We raise http exception. We've done it already. Then we are going to open that and say status code underscore code is equal to status.http. Yes, so I'm going to 404, that's where not found, right? I'm going to leave a detail. We've taken time to explain this already, that's why it feel like this time I'm doing it quickly, but then we've done this in already. If you have followed very well, we've taken our time to do all this. Right now, let's just quickly use those concepts that we know. So I'm going to say, if the user is not found, I will say user is not found. Enter the correct ID. Basically, that's the error that will be if the user is not, right? But what if we find the user? But if we find the user, what's going to happen? We are going to take database user db underscore user dot the phone number side, right? The phone number side of that will be equal to user dot phone number. So this database, if you're able to capture the right user, right, we are going to update the phone number section from the database by putting in the phone number from this small user, meaning the one coming in, right? So remember, this is what we fetch from the database, right? We are equating his phone number section, or his phone number, yes, section, to the new user phone number that we are bringing, so that we can see the update being done properly. After the update is done, we need to call the database and commit the change, because that you have made change in the database. And I say commit is like pressing save, control S, doing save. So you need to do the commit, and then we do database underscore refresh, a db.refresh. We are going to refresh and say user, db underscore user. Remember, we are using the one that we fetch from the database, right? That's what we are updating. So we are refreshing the one we get from the database. Okay, so then what should I do? I will now return, let's now return db underscore user, basically. So yeah, this is the right information that we have. So we say do blah 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 blah. We done update with the phone number, and this section is what we have. So let's go to our Pydantic model. Let me run it. So let me open. Today I haven't opened my this thing down. Wow. Okay. Virtual environment. Activate my virtual environment and run it. If you call, no, it won't run. It won't run. because I need to cd into the app first and then run my UV okay. So at this level, let me refresh this. Yeah, now we have update phone number section. Now it's at the put update phone number, and so phone number updated. So let me expand it and click on try it out. So for the try it out, you have a model UUID there. This number is fake, right? It's fake. Let me just keep it and write a new 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So I'm just pressing some numbers there and let me execute this. What are we having? They say detail user is not found, enter the correct ID. So the right error, so there's a raise, right? I hope we understand this. So the ID that we entered doesn't match any, it doesn't match any. So if it is, so the DB will be none. So if it is none, then we are going to raise this particular HTTP exception. That's why we are seeing user is not found at the front end. And then let's use a right user, right? So I'm going to my database. This time I'm going to this one, copy this. Let me copy this ID for this user. Go here, let me go here and then paste this one. Yeah, I've pasted it now. Okay, so let me try that. There's a new phone number. Let me execute this. Yeah, so you see staff have come, a lot of staff have come, response has come, something is positive, and still you see password is following. Always remember that the password is following. So what do we need to do that? Pydantic model will help. So you go here and you put a response model underscore model will be equal to user out. So the user out model that we have allowed is this particular one. So let me go and run front end. Let me run this again. Yeah, so this is what we have, right? Phone number 12345 is now added. So what we go, let me go to the database and refresh the table. Refresh this table. So I have 1 2 3 up to 9. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. Right, just for the first one, that's joe@gmail.com. So let's go and try other stuff. Okay, so let's say we want to update this updating phone number, but what if the phone number that I enter is the same? You need to actually make the user know that the number they have entered so far is the same thing. So what we are going to do is that first we check if user exists. Okay, now that's not the only thing to check. Elif db underscore user. So if the database phone number is equal to user dot the phone number that is bringing, what will going to happen? We are going to still raise an exception again. Copy. Let me paste this one here. I'm just copying and pasting this. So what we are going to say is that indentation, right? This Python stuff. Python follows a strict indentation stuff. So something is happening. Status code. Where is my raise HTTP exception? Oh, it didn't come. The thing is having issue. I'm having issue here. So let me just say raise HTTP exception, and then the exception that we are going to raise will be status code will be equal to status dot. What status should I say? Which one should we select? That's if the passwords are the same. Should I say conflict? No. We are going to let's say bad request. Let's just do bad request here, comma, and then what are we having? Status, no, detail now. After that, we add detail. And the detail is going to say phone number is the same. it should be different. Yeah, so that's what we are going to say. So if the phone number from the database is the same as the one they are bringing, if you dictate that, then we need to tell them that, oh, Oga is the same. So that's what we are going to say, right? Another thing is that maybe or the phone number, right, that the user is bringing is also none. The user didn't provide a phone number, but I want to make an update. We do the same thing. We say raise HTTP exception. So you need to actually be cautious on the various things that may happen, right? Because trust me, users, right, they have to treat them as children, people who can make mistake or anything, people who don't know what they are doing, right? So you have to provide all the necessary exceptions or to inform the front end about all the possible ways that errors can happen when users are doing that. So here, if the user didn't provide a phone number but they want to update the phone number, we are going to say dot. What are you going to say? I'm going to internal server error. We are going to say internal server error 500. So internal server error, I'm going to 500, and I'm going to say detail, give a detail message. The detail message is going to say, please provide a phone number. Yes, so that's what we are going to say if the phone number is the same. But if it's not, then we are going to just quickly do the update quickly and return this and return the database user. If you return the database user, what's going to happen that it's going to run against this response model. So let's go back. So I'm having this, I had this already, right? I'm going to run it again. The same password, the same ID. I'm running it again. What are we having? Phone number is the same. It should be different. That's the detail we are getting to the front end. So this one, the user know that, oh, what I provided is different. So you shouldn't. Maybe let me change the last one to 1 again, meaning the phone number is different now, right? Or let me even delete. It's different now, so let me execute this. So it has recovered or given us a response. That's fine. But then let me delete this whole section. I've deleted this whole section, right? And now I'm going to run this and invalid double quotes and stuff, right? Let me put this comma. Let me remove this comma. So the response is requiring a field. This we are requiring a phone number field. Okay. Now there is another thing that you need to also know, that maybe we don't just want to change the phone number, right? We want to change let's say first name. So it doesn't mean that we are going to go to class and then say create a new model for phone number in or first name in. No, it's going to be a lot of models here. So what we are going to do is that we are going to create this model in such a way that it's going to have all the subsections that the user can change themselves. So it can be first name, here it's going to be a string, last name is also going to be a string, right? So these are the things that the user may decide to change. I'm just going to do that. I'm leaving the email for you to change as well, but right now I'm going to put these three. So what we are going to do is that now go to the front end and we will refresh the front end and we click on try it out. Remember, see, all the first name, last name and things, all of them are here. See, all of them are here, right? So by here, this particular endpoint is here to update phone number. It is here to update phone number. So whatever you change, you send towards this endpoint, you should just be worried about phone number, and the rest are not needed, right? The rest are not needed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like this, give a different number, and then because these are not needed, I'm going to delete them, right? So I'm going to execute. So it's going to give me an error. It's saying requiring stuff, right? There's this comma after, so I'm deleting this comma as well, executing this. It's a we require first name body. So these things are things that we don't need at this endpoint. So when you go to your Pydantic model, basically now, so what we have to do is that there are going to be different endpoints that we'll be creating for different stuff, but we want them to be using this model. And then in each model, we don't want if this one is compulsory for that endpoint, we don't want this other ones to be compulsory, right? They should be optional. So what we are going to do is that to set something optional, the ID there is always needed. We need the ID to check the person from the database. So the model is important, but the rest do equals to none. This one to equals to none, and this one to equals to none. If you do equals to none after doing the data type equals to none, what is it meaning? That you are making them optional. You are making them optional. So you can run this without the phone number. You can run this without the first name. You can run them, but without the rest, such that if you are at the phone number end section, right, you need to make sure that you set only the phone number endpoint there. If you are the first name, we are making an endpoint for changing first name. You change this and you make sure that you clean these guys because they are optional now, right? So that it allows you to make the right decision. Okay, so let's go and see that in action. So in our update phone number section, what we have is that we are using this user update in, but from that user update in, we are only concerned about the phone number. So if you go to the front end, right, I'm refreshing this, I'm doing try it out. At this point, I can, because this is update phone number and all of them are optional, now I am free now to delete all these guys and really delete this last comma. It's very important, deleting the last comma. Now I'm going to set a new phone number for that particular user, and then let me see if I still have that ID. Oh no, I don't have it. So I'm going to copy the ID from the database again. I'm copying this ID. I'm coming here to paste it. Okay, so this is now ready. Now you see that they were first name and last name, right? They were optional. So right now, when I ran it first, when I didn't set them optional, there was an error. Now I've set everything optional, but I'm just concerned about for this endpoint, I'm just concerned about a phone number. That's why I'm setting it. If we are at an endpoint where we are updating first name, then we will have cleaned the phone number and keep only the first name here and change it. That's what will happen, right? Okay, let me execute this so that we know that this is working. Now this is working. So you see the phone number has changed to the newest one, right? While the other section like first name, last name that are also using the same model, because they are optional, we don't face any issue. In the Pydantic model, these three are optional, but the ID is very important. ID is very important. That's why we didn't. If not, we could have done this equals to none. But then we are not allowing that. We are going to allow it. It cannot be optional. It's needed. But those that are optional are these. Why are we setting them optional? Because we are going to have different endpoints for setting phone number, a different endpoint for setting first name, and different endpoint for setting last name. If you are at a particular endpoint that requires changing first name, then it means that we need to clear this and clear this from the load that will be sending to that particular endpoint so that we can just set first name. That's how powerful or important the technique that you can use to just have one model, that will allow you to make updates at various endpoints. Okay, so we see that. Let me quickly make an update for let me quickly make an update such that I will change the first name rather. I'll change the first name rather. So this is quite the same. I'm going to write a simple endpoint to change the first name of users. So I will say at my app dot put because I'm making a change. I'm going to say update first name. So update first name here, right? So I'm going to so my response model will be user out model that we have already. Now let me create a function. It's going to be an asynchronous function. Update first name function, and then it's going to be a user, and that user is going to be what model. So user updates in, and the database will be a session that will be depending on the function getDB as usual. Then first I need to make sure that I fetch db underscore user, since the database user will be equal to db.query. We're going to query on the database model, user model, and then from there we are going to filter. When we filter where user.id is equal to the user from the front end id dot first, then we stop there when we first find the first match, right? If the database user is none, what we do is that we raise an exception, meaning we didn't find it. I hope by now you are getting the techniques, right? You are becoming status code will be equal to status dot not found 404 not found, and I'm going to say detail equals to user not found. But if you find the user, what are we going to use? We are going to say db underscore user dot first name will be equal to the user dot first name from the front end. Then when we do that, then we are going to do db dot commit. We are going to save the changes, and then db dot refresh. We are going to refresh to get the new update on the db user, and then when we are done, we are just going to return db user basically, right? I hope this makes sense. Let's go and then change our first name. We go to the front end, refresh this. Let me close this guy. So update first name is also here. So update phone number, we work on it. Update first name. These two are using the same model to come in, right? So I'm going to try this out, see what happens. So they are using the same model to come in, right? We're going to use the same model to come in, but then we are more concerned about the model that we don't need the last name here, we don't need the phone number here, but then first name for the user, let me say Ben. I'm going to write Ben. There's no one in the database that's called Ben, right? But then I'm going to database. Let me go to this last person. The first name is Francis, right? Francis Joe. So I'm going to copy this and change that person's so I'm going to change this guy. Let's quickly do this. Okay, this last comma should always go for the last particular key value pair. Okay, so I'm ready. Let me execute this and see. Now it has changed. Now you can see the first name is now Ben. It has changed now to now Ben, and we have this particular data updated. So we are using the same model to come in, but then this will happen. Okay, but then front end people may not really get it, so we are you can define different models so that every time you just have id and the first name, id and the first name, id and the last name to match the corresponding endpoints, right? That has to be specific, and then that I think that will more advisable so that people will get it, right? But during testing, people may get confused. But then if you have any app communicating, you're going to allow this. I think this restricting it to the right data in for each endpoint. I think each model should actually match that very well, right? So we have this now. Let's go to the database and confirm and refresh. So it's now Ben here. It's no more Francis, it's now Ben. Okay, so what we will do is that you go to Pydantic model, and then for each of them, right, you can write a new model for them, like class update phone in, where you just focus on id, uuid, then you make the phone number compulsory. Say phone number compulsory. You don't set it equal to now, so that when you go to the endpoint, the phone number endpoint, the model that you use is going to be, we need to update it here. It's going to be update phone in. So update phone in just means that we are going to update phone number, but then the model that is coming in, basically. So you're going to be update phone in as the model that will be here. Then when you go to the front end, we refresh and we get to, wow, it's still running, so maybe there's an issue somewhere. Yeah, so the problem that we have, let me see what we did. Right, let me go to the Pydantic model. Oh, so we needed this. You see this one, let me copy it. We needed this to be a Pydantic model. We don't have it here, so it should run now. It should now run. So let me refresh. I'm going to update phone number now session. I'm going to try it out. You see that there's strictly this, and the two of them are needed, right? Basically, so you use that to run the endpoint. So kindly go and then do for the phone number, first name and last name, and write them perfectly, so that we don't have any issues front end guys, or the front end for the applications, right? So yes, this is updating the first name, and then this is updating the phone number. So I entreat you to try whatever way you want, whether you want all one model for all of them and setting them optional or specific model for each of them. Then you go the rest that you want to update for first name, last name, email, right? To change the email as well, and you can even try changing the password. But then before we go to the password, we need to actually know how to verify passwords first. Right now, this is good, this is good, all updates are done. We are ready to move on to the next session now.